Where has God been in the midst of all the hurt, the pain, and the death of 2020? Is faith worthwhile? Is it real? Well, I suspect that the lady we're about to hear from, and it's a joy to have her, Felicia Labatore, can share a faith story that will inspire all of us because she has been
Mm.
through this and she continues on through her faith to impact countless people. Welcome to My Faith with Homer and Pip. I'm Tom Pippins. Thanks to our producer, Brent Young, and the man who had the vision for the show, my good friend, Steve the Homer True. As always, he leads off, Felicia. So, Homer, have at it.
Thanks, Tommy. It's always about my faith, but he's added, Tommy has a new level. And the story. What's the story? It's the story and my faith. And Felicia, I know this is going to be another case of exactly that. Start your faith, your story where you wish.
Thank you so much for having me. I was thinking about where do I even start with this? Because I grew up actually in church. My grandparents brought me to church as a little kid. So I did the whole Sunday school thing. And, but there's so much, right? When you start as a kid to now. And I think the one thing that I really wanted to focus on is what people ask me the most about. So I'm just going to jump into that if that is okay with you guys.
Yes, there are no rules. That's the rule.
Okay. So we are a blended family, my husband and I. We are both police officers for the City of Kenosha Police Department, which that's a whole nother thing, obviously, that we could talk about at some point, but what we've just been through as a city. So what I want to focus on is my husband and I met on the job. We've been together 20 years. And when we met, we became a blended family. I have a son named Clay, and then he brought two boys into the relationship, Jacob and Justin. And, I would say we're the typical blended family. We ate dinners together, and all the boys were involved in sports. And we knew who all their friends were. And we went on a vacation every year as a family and went to church on Sundays and prayed together at night and did Bible studies together. Like just the typical Christian American family. That's what we were. And Clay, our oldest, was an absolute athlete. And his 8th grade year, he was a quarterback. He was a pitcher for his baseball team. He was the captain of every team. He was in boxing. He was in basketball, like all the things, but not just the athlete. Like he was the it kid, the funny kid, the kid that had all the friends, the kid that everybody came to for advice. Like he was just had all the things, all the good labels. And his 8th grade year, he was boxing. He was preparing for silver gloves, which is basically golden gloves, but for youth age level. And he broke his hand. And when he broke his hand, I say that this kind of started him on a bad road. And he had to have surgery. To make a really long story short, he started doing steroids because he was going into his freshman year of football then. And he still wanted to show up and be the biggest, baddest, fastest, strongest kid there is, and started doing steroids. Obviously, we didn't know about it. And this just led him on such a bad road. And then it affected baseball, and it affected who his friend group was. And we saw all of this changing, and our life became absolute chaos for the next couple of years. I kind of say it was like standing on a shoreline, and I was watching him in the middle of the ocean drowned. And I was trying to throw every raft I could to him, like friends talking to him, us talking to him, other family members, counselors, coaches, anybody and everybody. I was grasping at everything I could to save him. And I was just watching him drown. And on June 21st, 2014, we woke up and our family decided we were going to leave the house for a couple hours. And Clay was actually in a really good mood, and our kind of life went how his life went at the time. You know, any parent that has a kid that's kind of struggling, your life goes how they go at the time. And he decided that he didn't want to come with us, that he was going to stay home and do laundry and take a shower and all of that. And we said, okay, he's 16 years old. We're not going to force him to come with us. So we leave for about an hour and a half, and I come back and my house is really quiet. And I figured that he left again because he was now like leaving on weekends and we didn't know where he was going. And I went upstairs to his bedroom and I found that he had taken his life. And our whole world crashed, right? Like everything you had was gone. And I ran to Jesus. Like I said, I've always had a relationship with him, with Jesus, and that's all I had. That's all I had. And I took 6 months off of work, and every single day I would get up and pray and open my Bible and be so connected to that. I was very protective of who I allowed in my circle during those 6 months, because I knew, because of my role at work, I knew the steps that I was going to have to go through the grief process. And I didn't want to skip any of it because I wanted it to happen how it should. And, you know, I can say that God never, ever left me. And a lot of times people ask me, like, were you mad at God? Like, that's a natural reaction to have, right? Like, how could you let this happen? Like, did I not pray enough? Did I not be a good enough mom? Like all of those things. And honestly, I give all the credit to God that he just protected me through that. And during those 6, I was never mad at God, because I believe that God grieved with me more than I was even grieving, because he's the one that created Clay. Of course, God didn't want this for him. This was Clay's decision and Clay's decision alone. But also saying that, I always say, I will never let this one decision that Clay made ever define who he was, because Clay made thousands of great decisions. And so many of them I still hear today. I can be in a grocery store still today, and I have somebody that recognizes me because I go into the schools and talk to teens about depression, suicide, mental health, all of it, steroids. I talk about all of those things. And somebody will recognize me and they're like, hey, you're Clay's mom. And they're like, I just want to tell you, he helped me through like the worst time of my life. Like he was so great. So I just will never let that one decision define him. And as the same thing, I will never let Clay's decision define me. Like those 6 months, God told me like who I was again, like who I was created to be, and gave me new dreams and new passions and new things to like keep going, because now it's been since 2014. And I've met, unfortunately, with a lot of parents that have lost children and have lost them to suicide. And I see so many get stuck because they don't have a faith. They don't have that hope of like, I know that one day when my days are all done here and I get to go to heaven, Clay's going to be standing there with those great big arms. And he's going to be like, Mom, I'm so proud of what you did. I can't wait for that day. I have a thing that I always say, one day closer. I love my life. I can actually say I'm happy again and all of those things. Anyway, I went on and on. I went all over the place. So you guys can ask me whatever you want, but
okay,
it's
all right,
just,
I'll ask you right now.
okay.
I'm about to cry. How are you not crying? How is this not the hardest thing to talk about? I don't care how many years it is. That's my first question.
Mm-hmm. I think because I know that Clay is alive more today than, because Clay also had a relationship with Jesus. And I know he's more alive today than he ever was here. And all that pain that he was having here, he doesn't have that anymore. And I'm going to write a book someday actually about all of this, because I have so many stories, and people can call them coincidences or whatever. Most Christians don't do that. I call them treasures or gifts from God, where all the time, I mean, I just get them all the time. Clay is with all the time. His number was 44. And so that's like our thing. Like, we have 44s all over the place. For instance, today I turned this on to get ready, and I went to check my volume, and it was on 44. I was like, see, Clay, you're with us. Like, you're right here. So that's why, because honestly, those are gifts. And that's what I usually ask other parents that have lost kids to suicide. Like, have you felt your child? Have you heard from him? Like, any of those, because they're so comforting to me. And that's why. Listen, don't get me wrong. I do have pain, but I kind of explain it this way. In the very beginning, I carried a backpack, and it was filled with broken glass. And every step that I took, every single day, I would move, and that backpack with that glass would cut me, and I would bleed. And I had to learn how to carry that backpack, because it never goes away. You just learn to carry it differently so it doesn't cut you.
Okay, now question 2. I speak for, I know a lot of people that go, I'm sorry, Felicia, I can't be like you. You're not human. That's not possible. I don't know what it is about you, but I'm not you. And so I can't even relate to you, because this is so far from what I feel, or it was part of God's plan, or how did God do this? Or even people that don't have a faith. I look at you and go, you're not human. How do you help people that can't, or say that just can't, or may never, and certainly aren't where you are now?
So I absolutely get that. I understand that, because I don't know, but here's the deal. In the beginning, I remember being in bed feeling like I had an elephant on my chest and I could not breathe. And I would just over and over and over again be like, God, I can't breathe. My heart is shattered. Like, that's the way I would describe it, is ripped apart, torn apart, absolutely shattered. And I would literally be like, God, I need you to put me back together. Like, I need you to completely rebuild everything that was destroyed, because, you know, I'll be completely transparent, because I've talked about this. He used my husband's gun, and that shattered us. That shattered him. And we had to learn to just piece ourselves back together. So I think I don't want people to misunderstand my smile or my faith that I know Clay is with me. I don't want people to think that I woke up the next morning and was good, because I wasn't. It took a long time, but the hope that I want people to have is that if you are seeking God, if you are knocking, he is going to be there. And he will absolutely walk that road with you. Do I still have hard times? For sure. Of course. He's my son. I will never hear the words mom again. Christmas. Here's a perfect example. Grief is so different for everybody. So Christmas was obviously a big deal in our home. We love Jesus. We love presents, right? All of those things. This year, 6 years later, is the first year that my family, we are doing presents. We have talked about this every year. We talk about it as a family. Like, where do you feel comfortable? How do you feel comfortable doing this? What is okay? What traditions should we do? How should we change it? All those things. And this is the first year we're doing presents. And we all agreed that we were ready to do it without him physically sitting here with us. So I hope that helps you understand that I really am human.
It does. And then the third question is, I know people, some watching this, are going through where you were at before he committed suicide and want to know, what can I do? I've
Yeah.
told people, someone said, they go and say, I don't want a perfect life. I'm hitting 180. I just want to hit 200. Is there anything, given that what you've gone through, that can help people, even though you never solved it, if that's the right phrase? I'm always amazed by people who always say the person is now no longer in pain. The pain that you observe
Yeah.
must be just so terrible that always seems to be mentioned. But this is more the wish of, what could I do? Not that you did anything wrong. What could I do differently? What do you do? Take it from there. And the faith as a part of that or not, this is dealing with that particular issue before the end.
So can I just clarify, your question is, if somebody is listening or watching this and they have somebody that they know that is struggling and they're worried about them going down that road, what they should do? Okay, perfect. So I always suggest just asking the question, and people are really uncomfortable asking the question. And it would simply just go like, hey, Homer, I am noticing that you're kind of more disconnected. Name the things that you're seeing. You're more disconnected. I know that you're using drugs more. I know that, you're going through this divorce, whatever it may be. And say, I'm really scared, nervous about you taking your own life. Have you thought about taking your own life? And just be quiet and let the silence sit there and let them answer. I think people are scared to ask of like, what if I put it in their head, which is a myth? What if they're not thinking that? Then they're mad at me. Okay, let them be mad at you. They're still alive, right? And what if they say, yes, I don't know what to do? So I think those are the things that stop people, but that is something I would definitely ask the question. That's one thing. And then I think the other thing is to be telling them all those things, which is usually really hard, because when somebody is at that point of taking their life, it is because they're in so much pain. It's not selfish. It's not they want to hurt anybody. It's not any of those things. The way I kind of explain it is, how many days Clay woke up and said, I'm going to stay alive one more day for my family. I'm going to stay alive. I'm going to try again for my football team. I'm going to do this one more time because, I have this great girlfriend. And then there just becomes a point that it's just that overwhelming that they just want the pain to stop. Anyway, back to answer your question. I think I would just be telling them how much you love them, how much you need them in your life, how much you care for them. Of course, I did all of those things and I didn't get the result that I wanted in the end. But that is, I teach on like, how do you this exact thing? And that would be my suggestion for trying to get people not to take their life. Get them the help. Don't ever give up, I guess.
Tommy, it's all yours.
Well, Felicia, first of all, I'm thankful to wear glasses because it's easier to hide the tears that formed on the corner, unlike my good buddy Homer, who has the laser vision. Thank you for being a hero as a police officer, a detective in your past. Thank you for being a hero in your faith. Thank you for being a hero mom, a parent. Now, having said that, and maybe this is the evil one, how do you tell people, and we know in the sports world, some of the greatest parents ever who have lost children to suicide, how do you get past the guilt maybe, or what, I could have done this, I should have done that?
That's a really great question. And when I talk about this, that's one of the first things that I learned, because not only did I cling to God, but I did those other tangible things too, like finding a suicide support grief group where I learned so much. And that is one of the things that they kind of teach you about, of do not go down the road of shoulda, woulda, couldas, because there is nothing you can do about it now. And all that does is put you in a ditch every single time of shoulda, woulda, couldas. So that was one of the things where I said that God told me who I was again, is like, I remember sitting, I'm a big journaler, and every day I still journal. And that was one of the things that he kind of reminded me of who I was. Like, you were a good mom, and had me write those things because you read him bedtime stories, because you had a special song with him, because you brought him to the practices, because you taught him about me, Jesus, like he just had me list all the things. And that's what I suggest to parents. Like, don't forget all the things that you did right, and don't focus on what you think you did wrong.
All right, I got one more. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, of course.
This is just the latest example. I adhere to this, that God's greatest miracle is to give you peace of mind, to give people that understand. I don't know how he did it. Now, if you wonder, like, how do you do this? This horrific things happen, and somehow he touches your heart and he touches your mind, and you find a way not to maybe understand it, but to accept it. I don't know in your case, and you want to say, I don't care if you're an atheist. Don't you see this is the best chance you have? Or is it just being open to God? Address that from the any way you want, as to if any of that makes sense to you.
So I say every single day, I have a choice to make, whether I'm a Christian or not. And this is everybody. Every single day before I wake up. So Clay, let me preface this real quick. Clay was full of life. Okay, like he was a million miles an hour from the moment he was born. And because of that, I often think, like, what would Clay want me to do? He would not want me sitting around absolutely brokenhearted, being an alcoholic, closed up in a bedroom somewhere, life falling apart. He would not want that, because he was so full of life. And so I have a choice to make every single day. And in the beginning, it was so, again, I wasn't like this from the beginning. This has been a journey. And every day before my feet hit the ground, I make the decision that today I'm going to do the best I can do. I'm going to live the best life I can live, and just be full of life, because that's what he taught us. He honestly taught us. That's our whole family. That's kind of our family motto, that we're all just going after life every single day. And, maybe it's that way to stay connected to him too. But that's what I would say. Like, even if you don't have a faith, like, you still have a choice to make. And I want these days to count, because see, now my family gets how short life is. People say that all the time. Like, we really get it, and things that really matter. And the rest of it, we just let it go.
To Jesus. You went right to God immediately.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because
that's what I've known. I would say I didn't have the easiest of childhoods, so I've always depended on him. So I guess that's what I would say. Like, that's just what I've always went to, and he's been my rock forever. So.
All right, back to Tommy. That the last time I met her. Go ahead, Tommy.
Do whatever you want. I love you, because when God puts it on your heart, we just go. Felicia, I could ask you about 100 questions myself, but that is, Lord willing, for a second part. And if I may, I hope and pray you will write your book. I'm encouraging Homer to do the same thing with his amazing life. Just talk into the old recorder or whatever. But I would just leave you with this question, please. I'm envisioning Clay in heaven saying, yeah, go mom, go girl, you're doing great. Every day, all these kids you're impacting, and now here sharing your faith, and how humbling it is for us. And I know he lives inside you, and we've met him. Do you see this as you look back, Felicia, even as you stay present in the moment and teach us that that's the way we need to live this precious life we're given before we see God face to face? Do you see something bigger here? You and Clay making a difference in countless lives, in the Bible, right? Things happen for bad. God takes it and makes it for good. And there's a lot of good coming out here.
You know what? See, that's exactly why this is happening. I'm so glad that you just said that. So from the very beginning, I think it's Genesis 50:20, what you just said about what evil meant for bad. God is using me here to save the lives of many. And I've clung to that. And we always, not to get too far, but there was kind of like a prophecy over Clay's life that he was going to influence thousands. Like that was kind of spoken over him by a few different people, that his life was going to influence thousands. And we always saw him as being somebody on a big platform, whether it was going to be athletics or some sort of stage presence. We just knew that that's how it was going to go for him. And then when everything changed, we didn't understand it. And now I do think we're seeing it, that it's still Clay's life. It's just not how we thought it was going to be. And it's Clay through me helping people. So yeah, I guess to answer that, because it's so many different things. It's the police side of it. It's that it happened to a police family. It's the suicide of it. It's the steroid part of it. There's so many different aspects of this that can affect so many different people. So I hope that answers your question. And can I just share one?
No, wait, but I got to interrupt again.
Okay.
You need to see your smile the second Pip asked that question, which was your answer bigger than any answer you gave after that. Please go back when you look at this and watch that smile.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Because he gave that to me right away. It's perfect. Oh. I just love God. He's so good. He shows up all the time. So here's one of those things from the very beginning. So Clay dies on a Saturday, and I have a girlfriend that had she walked the road with me. She was one of those people that just showed up every day. She didn't have answers to anything. She was not going to make my pain go away. She just showed up every day and was with me. So she's with me every day. And a week later, we didn't bury him for 10 days because of some circumstances, but so we still hadn't had the funeral yet. And she calls me and she says, Felicia, I have to come over. I have to give you something. I was like, okay, yes, come over. So she comes over and we're standing in my kitchen and she's kind of nervous. And I'm like, what is going on? She's like, this is so weird. I just felt like I had to give it to you, but like, I felt like it's like right now, I don't get it, and I'm like, okay, what is it? Like, what is this? And she holds out her hand. And so I put out my hand and I take it from her, and it's this necklace. I wear it every single day. I never take it off. You're not going to probably be able to see it very well, but it's a little barbell because he was really into obviously weightlifting. And it says Philippians 4:13 on one side. And then the other side, it says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. Thank you so much for giving this to me. Like, this is a perfect gift. I know this is from Clay. Like, he was all about weightlifting. And she leaves, and I go back into the kitchen to get something out of the refrigerator. And in those first moments and minutes and days after you lose somebody, and especially tragically to suicide, you count every single minute because you're just thankful to get through the minute, right? And for some reason, I looked at the clock on my stove. I looked at the time, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I just stopped in my tracks and I called my husband into the kitchen. And I'm like, guess what? When Crystal, that's my friend's name, when she handed that bracelet to me in my hand, it was 1 week to the exact minute of me finding Clay, to the exact minute. And I felt like Clay and God were standing right in that kitchen, and they were like, instead of you always thinking of finding him and what that scene looked like, you are going to remember this moment of getting this gift. And anytime your mind goes to that, I want you to think of this, that you are strong, that you are powerful, that I am with you, both Clay and God, and you can do anything. And so that really started my journey of being open to any gift that they wanted to give me. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because it's like one of those things, like you can't make it up. Like it was amazing, and I cherish it.
There's the point where we know where to wrap it up, isn't there, buddy? Yeah, yeah. Big air hugs, to you, Felicia. That smile, we'll take it with us. We'll be praying that God continues to use you. We pray perhaps we'll have a connection, another one here on My Faith with Homer and Pip. We are so grateful that you and Clay graced us today, and that Jesus was there with you every step of the way. So thank you again. That's Felicia.
Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. I'm Tom Pippins with my good friend Steve the Homer True and my dear friend and producer Brent Young. This has been My Faith with Homer and Pip. If you have an idea for a guest, and Felicia, you may have a long line of them, you have my email. It's pippinstom@yahoo.com, P-I-P-I-N-E-S, pippinstom@yahoo.com. My Faith with Homer and Pip. Thank you for being with us, everyone. We pray you were blessed, and God bless all of you.